And what I would say the most melting down story of the week was the Tia Torres story. Chris, we're going to have Josh Liddy come on, and apparently he wrote a blog about what somebody from Tia Torres or Tia Torres herself said. Can you give us a little introduction before we bring Josh on, Chris?
Yes, there was a post that was made to the Villalobos Facebook page. It was an ad for Einhorn Insurance saying, that you can get insurance for a targeted dog for, I think it was $16 a day, they were saying. And the text that accompanied this post, this picture, was, I don't know, it didn't say if it was Tia that had written it. I'm assuming that it was, because I believe she's responsible for the majority of the posts on there, and when it's not her, they do specify who it is that's speaking. But the post said that they would be going to Westwego to support the proposition that one of the councilmen had put in. The proposition is very specific. It is extremely strict restrictions. It includes mandatory insurance, mandatory confinement inside and outside of the house. Any dog not registered with the city is essentially banned from the city. There's a whole host of requirements that have to be met in order for a person to have a dog that they're determining to be a pit bull. In the post on the Villalobos Facebook page, they said that they would be attending the meeting and that some people would be surprised that they are supporting Councilman Green's proposal.
Yes, I saw that. All right.
There was initially no explanation given as to why or what exactly they were supporting in the proposal, with the exception of a couple of statements saying that it could be worse, basically. It could be full-on ban. I have to admit, I had a bit of the same reaction as Josh did in his post. If people haven't read it yet, he has the first post that sparked this whole thing, and the second post, which is more of a response to the response by Villalobos. But the first post was an outline of what was going on down there, the attack that started it, the things that Councilman Green is seeking, and the title, I suppose, could be seen as being a little bit inflammatory. It said, why the hell is Villalobos supporting BSL, basically? But there wasn't too much in there as far as Villalobos itself until it got to the end. The response that was given by Villalobos was not an explanation of their position necessarily any more in depth. There was some comments by them saying that they were trying to get this applied to all dogs, or they were trying to go more breed neutral. But it's very, very vague as far as what exactly the initial intent was behind the post that sparked this. The post that sparked this seemed to be pretty cut and dry. They said that they were supporting this proposal. And Josh can get a little bit more into the back and forth and all of that stuff, but there's been a firestorm of the Villalobos followers.
I've seen it.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
Yes. Some very, very interesting commentary being had on the Sway Love Facebook page and on Villalobos itself. There's been some accusations by Villalobos that Josh wants to have them shut down. There's a comment in his second post on the subject. You can see screenshots of it, and I'll read a little bit of that, while we sort of give you guys the backstory. I'm assuming that not everybody's seen this from some of the responses that we had on the post saying that he would be on here. But, they accused him of, having an intention to have him shut down. They accused him of forcing people to basically withdraw their donations from them. You know, there's a lot of accusations kind of flying around as far as...
What surprised me was a lot of their accusations were not even stuff that he had mentioned in his article, and a lot of them were like, you need to read what she said, and
yes,
it wasn't much said. It was a one-line post saying you'd be surprised that we go along with it. It wasn't saying that they're trying to propose a change, and it's just, it seemed like it was just handled really, the initial post, it could have been solved by saying, you know what, we posted before we could have, or, you know, and then they're going to attack Josh when they're not even reading what Josh is saying. It was really weird.
All right, let's bring Josh on, because he's the butt of all this, and he has, you know, we've asked him on to have his side of this be told. Josh, thanks for coming on in this heated circumstance.
No problem. The butt is here, I guess.
The butt stops with you.
The butt of all the jokes is here.
All right. Well, I have to say that I haven't followed this as closely as Chris had, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on was so that you could give your side of it. I mean, and tell us. I saw the original post that said you'd be surprised that we support it, and I wondered, well, what does that mean? And then it went off to. Then it just seemed to me to denigrate into name calling as it often does.
Right.
Tell us about how you, when you saw the post and what happened. Say, we have asked Tia Torres to come on the show, and we have gotten no response. So it's not that we don't want her to be on.
Right.
It's not that we don't want to hear her side. And in fact, I wouldn't, if her opinion has evolved, great.
Exactly.
Let's go. I mean, having an opinion and then saying, "Oh, I made a mistake," or "Oh, you didn't really understand what I said, and here's what I really said," but I really haven't seen any evolution. So anyway, go ahead, Josh. Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. I simply called into question their stated position from May 13th. That's basically it. I didn't get into how they, physically attended the council meeting and supported Glenn Green's proposal, who, by the way, has a personal stake in all of this. He admittedly knew the woman that was killed, so based on that alone, he shouldn't be letting his emotion cloud his judgment on this issue, and that should negate the bill out the gate, but that's neither here nor there. So,
well, I have to say that a lot of the times personal politicians' opinions do create legislation.
Right.
I've seen it happen in Broward County, where they had a dangerous dog law, and it was all because one guy had his dog attacked, and he didn't want it to happen, and so he pushed the whole thing through.
Right.
So it's not unusual. I don't think it's right. I think it's absolutely wrong. I think it's because what happens is nobody else really cares, and they go, well, if he wants that, no, whatever. But they don't really look at it. They don't analyze it. They just follow along. So do we know what happened with Josh Green's proposal? Not Josh Green, Representative Green.
I believe it's still being worked on. I think from what I've heard, it won't be totally solid until July. But,
apparently they're waiting for new council. There's like a new council members or something that they're waiting to be seated before they pick up this issue officially.
So, I mean, my first post was essentially detailing what's been proposed by Green, what's out there in the media. They've talked about it plenty. So I kind of break that down. In the law itself, what's being proposed, it's not a ban, but it's pretty much a ban. It's as far to a ban as you can get without calling it one. It's pretty draconian.
Well, what they've done, it sounds like to me, is they've said basically that pit bulls have to be declared dangerous dogs, kept like dangerous dogs.
Right.
Because, I've dealt with dangerous dog laws, and they require, having them kept inside, kept in a pen that's got a cement floor and in the top, and, it has to be all these other requirements. So I think that's pretty much what they've done.
Right. And, I mean, the majority of my first post wasn't even critical of, Villalobos, per se. It was more critical of Councilman Green, and then I just noted that, hey, by the way, Villalobos is supporting this for whatever reason. I was as shocked as most people are. And then I just basically asked Villalobos to reconsider their position. And after posting it, it got turned into this whole them saying that I'm attacking them and all this other stuff. And, I mean, we can go into that more in depth if you want to, but...
Well, let me ask you this. What has there been an evolution of their opinion about this? I mean... other than their statement that I read that says you might be surprised we'd support this, and then there was sort of a backpedaling, saying, well, we're only supporting it because it could be worse. It could be a ban. Has there been anything else?
Well, not that I've seen later on down the thread, be it hours or days later or whatever, that they said that they were going to try to eventually push for breed neutral laws if possible, but that doesn't call into account that they've already went on record saying that they agree with what's already been proposed. So, I mean, the damage in that sense has already been done. If they can get breed neutral laws passed in place of that 2 weeks from now or a month from now, if that's what it ends up being, then great. Excellent. But that's not really the point.
Right.
The point of all that I've been through and what's kind of happened over the last couple of days, at least.
Well, it's kind of been, I hate to say this, but it's been kind of a dogsbite.org meltdown, where you've been critical, and everybody who is, there's not much to read when all there is that one sentence. I mean, when somebody says, well, you need to read what they said, it takes 1 second to read what they said.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been, their reactions to what I've wrote have been really irrational. That's my opinion. But again, if you read what I originally wrote, there's not a lot in there attacking. There was nothing in there attacking Villalobos. It's just pointing out their position. But since all this has happened, and since they've went on record not once but twice about what I've apparently done to them, I'm getting like a constant stream of stuff along the lines of, you suck, I hate you, you're an idiot, you're worthless, we hope you get sued, to things that I can't even repeat on the air. Mm-hmm. And then it delves into the whole like celebrity angle of all of it, how people say, well, you're nobody, you'll never be as big as her, they've done way more than you, like it's this, high schoolish. That's not about what this is to me. This is about, it's not about her, it's not about me, it's not about anything, it's about BSL. That's basically it. Like, when it comes to BSL, nobody should get a pass on that. I shouldn't, you shouldn't, they shouldn't. It's a not to be compromised with issue. It's an injustice. It's no different than Jim Crow laws of the late 1800s and mid-1900s. This isn't like an argument over whether we want 2 or 4 birthday cakes and we'll compromise and get 3. I'm all for compromise in life in general, but not when it comes to blatant injustice like this. Not when it comes to breed discriminatory legislation. I'm just not for compromise, and nobody should be, period.
Let me ask Chris, do you think what he's saying, do you agree with that that's how it went down?
Yes, and I want to make a point about the damage that this has done. I initially had come across this post, not the blog post, the initial post with the insurance ad on a pro-BSL Facebook page, applauding Villalobos for basically coming to see the light.
Oh, man, see, I didn't even know that, but that's what I knew was going to happen. You could just see these people jumping on that.
This is not something that's been taken out of context. This is not something that is being manufactured as a controversy. This is something that is being held by the pro-BSL side now and being pointed to as an example. And I think that goes to speak to the damage that this is creating on a larger scale. We lose credibility when something like this happens. It's not, and like Josh said, compromise is one thing. Absolutely, there is need for legislative compromise, but compromising a ban for a ban is not appropriate.
Well, let me just say this, and I've as a lawyer have been involved in compromising and settling cases and all that. You never go in and say, this is what my final offer is, the first thing. I mean, if you want to compromise on this issue, you go in and you fight it and say, we don't want any of it. And then you compromise from that position. You don't compromise from the position that you're willing, you're the last. If you want to get $100 settlement, you don't start at $100. As a lawyer, I tried all different ways of trying to settle a case to see, which one was the most efficient and the most satisfying. And the truth is, everybody wants to fight before they settle. And if they don't, they feel gypped. They feel like, well, we didn't fight about it. So they'll never, if you say, look, I'm coming in here, I'm telling you exactly what I'm going to take is $100 and no less, the first thing you're going to get is, well, how about 75? And this is one of my problems with Obama is that, and I like Obama, but a lot of times when he negotiates, he comes in and does that. He says, here's what I'm willing to take as his bottom line, and then he gets negotiated off of that. But that's a different subject. In this case, I think, best to fight for none and compromise from there if you're going to compromise, but you have to have a plan.
I also want to make the point that, a lot of what is being said by not only Villalobos, but by the people who are out there essentially waging this war for them, is that, it's better than a ban, it's better than a ban, this is not, it's not breed-specific legislation, which is absolutely shocking. Yes. If it targets a breed, it is breed-specific legislation. There's no sway in the definition of that, no pun intended.
That's the saddest part about it for me is just kind of going through this and living it. You see how so many people don't even understand the issue. They don't even know what breed-specific legislation is, clearly, by their response. They don't even get it. They think if it's a ban, that's breed-specific legislation. Anything other than a ban is not. No, that's not the case. There's a definition of what, BSL is, and people don't even, it seems like the majority of people don't even get it. That's the saddest part for me.
Well, whether it's regulation or ban, it's still targeting a specific breed. I think that's how you have to approach it. I mean, there are different levels of regulation, but the bottom line is that it's still regulation of a specific breed that can't be identified. So, in any case, I guess the last question I have is, where is this going? In other words, let me ask Josh first. I mean, are you going to have they, other than name calling, has their position given you? Have they given you any more argument or statement of what their position is, other than, hey, you'll be surprised we're supporting it?
I have not heard from them. I mean, I've reached out to Tia, just like you stated that you reached out to her probably long before I even made my blog post, and you haven't heard. I haven't heard back from her yet. I mean, I don't have her personal number or anything, but
right.
I've tried to make myself accessible for her before I even posted my second post, and haven't heard anything. So I don't know where this goes, other than all I've seen from them is them accusing me of wanting to shut their rescue down and have their donations dried up. And I just want to say, on record, I've said it numerous times on my Facebook page, on my website. I want to vocally say it here. I went out of my way to continually say that I support Villalobos. I want no harm to come to them. The allegations from them that I want them shut down, that I've caused their donations to dry up, they're totally ludicrous. I want neither of those to happen. Why would I ever want that? I love pit bulls. I love them endlessly. That means that I love anyone who advocates on their behalf, and that includes Tia Torres and Villalobos. So I just wanted that on the record.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, and I can appreciate your sentiments because I know how these things degenerate so quickly. I want to say that I read an article last week that was talking about when people simplify their lives, they really, instead of making a decision based on what they've actually read themselves, they follow whoever it is their leader is. And so what you get is, the Colleen Lynn, people following her no matter what she says. And I don't want to compare Tia to that, but I'm just saying her followers are, they're acting pretty rashly.
Again, I cringe at the comparison, but I suppose we could say it's more a cult of personality issue.
Right. Right. It's a good point.
The person who is
we all want to follow what
whatever.
You think, Chris. Chris, we all want to.
Great.
What do you think about anything? We're ready to go. That's right.
Excellent. I wish, but that's kind of a terrible situation to be in, I would imagine. I would not want to have any sort of power or be responsible in any way, shape, or form for people acting on my behalf in the manner that a lot of these situations create.
Right.
And I personally don't blame Villalobos for the backlash that I'm getting. I mean, they turned them loose on me, but I understand that people are individuals, just like dogs are individuals,
Every individual has a right to read the stuff for themselves and make an informed decision rather than just, jumping on the bandwagon without thinking. And the other thing is, we don't know, I guess at this point, if Tia, whether she was personally involved or whether, there's suppositions, Chris said, about how the post was made. But at this point, without Tia coming on and saying something specifically, All we know is that that's the position that was put on the Facebook page, and we haven't had nothing since then. Is that true, Chris?
I mean, there's been some back and forth, but it's mostly been the same thing. It's mostly been saying, well, it could have been a ban. There's been quite a few statements by them saying that basically that a ban was a sure deal. I take some issue with that standpoint, considering that I've been following this extremely closely because of the nature of, Stop BSL and what we have to do there. And there was a very initially talk of just adding briefs to the current restrictions. I'm sorry, that's another thing. They have a brief-specific law in place already. There's a very strong case here for the failure of these laws. The man who owned these dogs was in violation of the current law. It's done nothing to protect the community. The case is enormously strong against the law.
Right.
Unfortunately, that opportunity seems to have been missed. But, I hope the door isn't closed. I really hope the door isn't closed to be able to come off of this and go towards something that would be for the betterment of the community. I would be surprised if that were to happen at this point. But as far as their position, there really has been no clarification as to the intent of the original post. There's been no clarification as to the actual involvement of Tia herself or any representative of the organization. It's all been very vague, no clarification, and, quite a bit of, I would say, deflection.
Well, let me say this. Everybody has the First Amendment right to say what they want, but there is ultimately a responsibility for what you say and how you respond to it. And I think, the takeaway to this is that everyone who is on Facebook, they don't always read everything. Sometimes they just react. And it's not a real deep intellectual process because that's not what Facebook is all about. So a lot of times it comes down to who has more followers, who's got the bigger tribe. So, Josh, I have to commend you for, saying what you think and putting it up there. And I read your very well put together response to everything with the screenshots. And what I would say is, people, before you post, go back and read, what everybody has posted, and make your own decision. Just follow the leader.
I definitely am not trying to say that, and I personally do not think that Tia supports BSL. I don't think that at all. But what her rescue organization is essentially backing is still BSL.
Yeah.
So the takeaway is understand what BSL means. Whether Tia understands it or not, I couldn't answer that.
Right.
But it just isn't.
Well, I have to say, I see Tia, and this is my own opinion, I see Tia more as a rescue rather than an advocate.
Right.
So, I'm not so sure.
And I'm the
he's
opposite.
Familiar.
I don't rescue dogs. So.
Right. And I'm not sure how aware she is of all of the different aspects of advocacy, laws, negotiation, testifying before committees, all these things that relate to advocacy. I don't know if she knows any of those things. I've never seen any of that in any case. So let's hope that we get a little bit more of a dignified conversation and a little bit more understanding of their position. And Josh, just stick to your guns, man. If what you're saying is true, then you got you have the right to say it. And I would say just because you don't have as big a tribe as Tia does doesn't mean you have to be coward in any way. So thanks for coming on the show. And
I appreciate it, Fred. Talk to you later.
And we'll be talking to you again, I'm sure.
All right.